Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Welcome, one and all, to Monday Football Monday here on the SB Nation NFL Show. A reminder before we move any more forward that this show is brought to you by our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code SBNFL for a special offer when you sign up. That is code SBNFL only at DraftKings Sportsbook. As noted, this is the SB Nation NFL Show. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Search for the SB Nation NFL Show. Subscribe. Leave a rating, write a review. Those things fill our hearts with joy. You can also watch us on the SB Nation NFL YouTube channel. And when I say the word us, we are talking, of course, about the fantastic Rachel Prevet on the ones and twos, as always, around here. My name is Arjo Ochoa, and I am joined by two of the finer, really just human beings throughout the entire world. We'll start with from Arrowhead Pride, straight from Arrowhead, although I think it is GEHA Field nowadays. The one and only Pete Sweeney. Pedro, happy Monday to you. What is the external temperature where you're at for our visual audience?
Yes, the outdoor temperature today, it has been hot in Kansas City. It has cooled down significantly today. You can't see out my window, but it is a rainy Monday. So we have dipped down to 60 degrees, which is exactly where you want to be. You always want to be in the 60 to 72 range. And so we're at the low part of that, but I'll take it.
Pete, I don't tell you this often enough. You're having a really strong hair day, like a good, solid, swoopy foundation happening right there. I don't know if that was, it looks casual, but I would believe it if you said you worked hard to make it look that way. You look very, very, very sharp today.
The last time I went into the hairdresser, I mean, I usually go in every 3 or 4 weeks. She convinced me maybe we should go with a little bit of a longer look. Why don't you come back and see me in 5 to 6? So we're trying something new. And I've gotten plenty of compliments on it. So thank you. It's a little bit of an off-season swoop, if you will.
Yeah, I was going to suggest calling it the Pete, but I'm going to go a different direction. Let's call it the 5 to 6, the look you got going on. I think that's what we named the look. So well done, Pete Sweeney. You look
like a happy hour type.
Exactly. Yes, you look handsome. Also handsome. I refer to the two of you right before we started as Tom and Jerry. Jeremy Reisman from SB Nation's Pride of Detroit. Who do you think you are in the Tom and Jerry pairing between you and Pete, and why?
I'm probably the Jerry. I'll listen. We're going to talk a lot Lions Chiefs in this one. I'm the one kind of the underdog here, the smaller one. But you know what? Sometimes Jerry typically wins. So
I was going to say, I don't think Jerry's the underdog. I think Tom is actually the lovable loser. I guess
there's in the normal cat mouse dynamic.
Yeah, there's a mutual respect between Tom and Jerry too, which we also have. It's a friendly.
Tom is also a cat. You're a Lions fan, also a Tigers fan. I mean, the feline thing is kind of right there. Do you want to go that way? Do you have a cat? I know you have a dog. No. Do you have a cat?
Cat allergies.
Maybe you got to rethink that though. Maybe you power through for the good of the content.
What is it? I will rethink my genetic code.
I recently had a cat added to my life, and it is mean. It is a mean cat. So,
well, I mentioned content. Do you know what Jeremy recently did for content, Pete? Did you see this?
Did he eat something?
No, he did not. In fact, I guess it's the literal opposite of that. Jeremy, you did 25 burpees on Twitch. Is that correct?
Technically up downs, and it was 30.
Okay.
A slight difference from a burpee is tougher because you have to do the jump at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how'd it go? I mean,
it was tough. I got roasted because I was starting to get up on my knees. But then, I mean, the whole idea was like, if you watched Hard Knocks last year, Dan Campbell and the whole team does up downs at the beginning of training camp.
Tryhards, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was getting roasted for getting up on my knees, and then we together consulted Hard Knocks and showed that like from 25 to 40, basically everyone was getting up on their knees. So I'm basically as good as a professional athlete.
Speaking of knees, let's stay away from Patrick Mahomes' kneecaps. Am I right? First game of the season, that would be nice.
All right, we're here to talk schedule. We also have each brought a team to present to the group that we just kind of feel a way about. I think the verbiage I said was that we feel is lost in the abyss. So we each have one of those that we'll get to as well. But we're going to be the first show that covers the NFL to react to the schedule, to offer thoughts and input and analysis on the schedule. So I might as well, I guess, like, I'm the ringmaster, I'm the ref, I'm the middle sort of whatever is happening here, because we can start at the beginning. The Detroit Lions will visit the Kansas City Chiefs right where you're at, Pete, at GEHA Field. on what is the day? Thursday, September 8th or 12th or whatever it is at this point. I've already forgotten.
One of those first days of September, yeah.
Right. Well, wake me up when it's over. But
Mm-hmm.
this is a big deal for the Lions. You finally get a seat at the big boys table. You know, the Cowboys kind of tired, shoulders hurting from carrying that season opening slot last couple of years. Chiefs are well accustomed to it. So, Jeremy, let's start with you, because I think we all thought the Lions were going to get their fair, sort of share of primetime, big time games. But this is as big time as it gets. This is an introduction to the season that the NFL wants the Lions to be a part of.
Yeah, it came as a pretty big surprise. Rumors came down on Wednesday night, and I wasn't sure if I was going to believe them or not. And yeah, I mean, it's weird. This has been a weird offseason from the get-go, just because of the increased expectations in Detroit, and it's uncomfortable from a Lions fan perspective. I'm not going to lie. But this is a whole different thing, because it's respect, right? That's something that Lions fans kind of hold dear, is like, the NFL hates us. The referees hate us. They never give us respect. Our schedule's always mean and unfair. And so this whole like Detroit versus everybody attitude, it's kind of fallen by the wayside, because there's expectations now. And now it's all on the Lions' shoulders. Like you said, like, you can't blame anything now. Like, you're playing with the big boys. You got the big stage. Show you belong. And they have 3 other primetime games this schedule, but none obviously bigger than this one. And so I kind of wanted to be cynical at first about this, to be like, well, the reason they didn't choose the Bengals or the Bills or any of these other teams is like, those are going to get good ratings anyways. But then I'm like, they don't want to blow out in week 1. They don't want to blow out for the first. They don't want people tuning out at 9 p.m. So I do think it's mostly a thing of respect, and that's something, I guess, hopefully, I'm going to have to get used to here.
Pete, the last time that the Chiefs raised the banner, obviously it was the first game in the COVID era for the NFL, so it wasn't the kind of packed Arrowhead that we've sort of come to know. But that was against the Texans. Correct me if I'm wrong. That particular game. So
yes.
The 2 banner raising nights against kind of some smaller teams in the NFL. Well, interesting, sort of twist here.
I think part of the strategy, and jumping on I was able to jump on a Zoom with some of the schedule makers, VP of broadcasting the other day. And he was essentially saying that the Lions, there's no questions about it. They played their way into this game. They talked about how they were really good in the second half, how their offense improved, how their defense improved. I know, RJ, you like to make fun of Coach Campbell there, but the Hard Knocks stuff really, it seemed to, it put the Lions onto this profile and the spotlight. And the last time you saw the Lions, they were winning. I know, whatever, but they're big playoff game, so to speak, and they had nothing to play for. They were able to knock out a team playing for everything, and so they put them on this big spotlight. And I think partly it does have to do with the Bengals and the Bills being in the last part of the schedule. We have seen the Chiefs play the Bengals and Bills earlier, and it just doesn't have the magnitude as it would maybe late in the season. So you see the Bengals and Bills now at the late part, and I think everything has a little bit of a role that goes into it. But yeah, we get the Chiefs and the Lions on the opening Thursday night. And I know the early spread is 7. I think only a 17-point win or something like that makes sense for Kansas City to start off their title defense. Yeah.
I will say it is kind of cool to get I can't even think of a Lions Chiefs game. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of anyone from any sort of memory. The fantastic Michael Kist offers here in our chat that it should have been Eagles 49ers. I have some thoughts on that matchup that we'll get to in a little bit here.
The Eagles would have had to win that last game, Mike. That's a big part of it. But anyway,
wow. They did not. They lost.
They did not.
No,
they lost.
Chiefs.
Yeah, they lost.
So that was the Super Bowl. Just so we're all clear, the Eagles lost the Super Bowl. Just worth mentioning a couple of times.
Yeah.
But anyway, very cool to see the Lions. I actually want to ask this one question. Maybe you're a little bit biased, Jeremy, but I'll ask it to you anyway. Have the Lions maybe, and we're super early in this, but maybe gotten the most out of a Hard Knocks appearance as any team ever?
That's a good question.
Like I would offer maybe like the Rex Ryan Jets, and that's a wide net to cast, but they really benefited from it. Like the Lions have really, and some of that obviously involves the work on their end and playing the games and performing well, but they have really been boosted by this.
Well, yeah, I think part of it is they backed it up with a decent season too, right? That I think for a while there was talk of a Hard Knocks curse, and thinking that for whatever reason the extra attention just kind of makes them a worse team. But it's a young team, it's got a charismatic head coach, and yeah, I think at this point it almost feels like overkill, the amount of attention that the Lions are getting. I know you don't like it, especially when people are acting like it's an original thought that the Lions are a
That's
great
the only
luck
thing that
candidate.
bothers me. That's
Yeah.
the only thing.
But I mean, yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. I know the Lions are mostly happy with their portrayal and mostly happy about how it all worked out. I don't think they ever would want to do it again. But yeah, I think they definitely hugely benefit from it. And then the fact that you cap it off with a nationally televised game, the regular season, and take it to a needy Packers team at the end of their Aaron Rodgers rope, that's that all works together. And in all of that, I'm sure, played into their decision to put the Lions in week 1 there.
There is
Week
something
one-
nice for Lions fans about the idea that like you knocked out Aaron Rodgers as a Packer. I mean, he killed you for years and years and years, but
Yeah.
you'll always have that last game. It's very UNC Coach K-esque in a way. So I think that's cool.
Cathartic.
The Cowboys sent Tom Brady into retirement, like formally, at least we think. Obviously, there's a lot to kind of lean there. The primetime games in week 1 are all majestic. So you've got Detroit at Kansas City on Thursday night. On Sunday night, you do have the aforementioned Cowboys in New York. I know everybody thinks the Cowboys and Giants play on week 1 on Sunday Night Football every year. That actually hasn't happened since 2017. So it's been a little bit since it happened on Sunday Night Football in week 1. And it usually is at AT&T Stadium, but the Cowboys actually visited the Giants in the season opener when the Giants raised their second Super Bowl banner. Pete, do you know what made that game unique?
It was the first game at AT&T, wasn't it?
No, it was in New York because the Giants were raising their Super Bowl banner.
Well, New Jersey, right? That's a good point by you.
But what made it unique was it was on a Wednesday, not a Thursday.
Right.
I think that like the Democratic National Convention was happening that Thursday, and that was why the NFL actually adjusted to that. So
I am disappointed that there's not more Wednesday Night Football on this year's schedule.
So Monday Night Football, though, week 1, we all get to see Aaron Rodgers at home against the Buffalo Bills. Jeremy, do you think this game will live up to the hype? Because this kind of feels like a stinker, like coming out the gate.
Well, we got to tiptoe and make sure we don't get into more Bills hate on this podcast. But yeah, no, I still have a lot of questions about the Jets, and maybe this is my lingering Aaron Rodgers hatred leaking through here. But I don't know. I think it's a maybe a little bit of a risky pick, not knowing how these two teams are going to look coming out in week 1. But I don't know. I think it could be an evenly matched game, but if I had to pick it right now, I would probably lean Bills pretty heavily, I would say.
Pete, I think the Monday Night Football schedule was probably the thing I was the most surprised about. Now, we do have Monday Night Football flex scheduling now. I think that starts week 15.
12.
Excuse me. My bad, Pete. But we all know that ESPN and ABC have paid an ungodly sum for the rights to Monday Night Football. ABC will have a Super Bowl in the rotation soon enough. They obviously went big last year with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Like, ESPN's trying to beef up what they're doing, and the NFL has finally agreed to play ball with them. So we now are in. Remember when we used to get the Monday Night Football doubleheader week 1? That was like a staple forever. That has now shifted to week 2. But week 1 we've got Bills at the Jets. Pete. Week 2 we do have the 2 games here. We've got the Browns in Pittsburgh, and we've got the Saints in Carolina. I do believe that is Carolina's home first, like that's their home opener, and Bryce Young's unveiling to the world.
Yeah, it sounds like a double snoozer. Probably maybe not tuning into that doubleheader. I like the Monday Night Football package. I did an exercise with myself before we started, and I wrote out I'm trying to take myself out of it, like the TNF games that intrigue me, the Sunday Night Football games that intrigue me, the Monday night games that intrigue me. Sunday night to me has the best package, and then Mondays after that, and then Thursday again is like, I think it's getting gradually better, but it definitely is behind the other ones. And I have on the Monday slate, I had Bills Jets highlighted, week 6 Cowboys Chargers, week 9 Chargers Jets. A lot of primetime games for the Chargers, by the way. Monday night to me gets the most important game, of the year with that Super Bowl rematch in week 11, Ravens 49ers, and then Lions Cowboys for you gentlemen in week 17. I think there's intrigue surrounding all those games. And that's not counting games or teams that are going to come out of the woodwork and end up having interesting Monday night games. And I think Sunday night is right there. I had Sunday night with the most intrigue as far as trying to be as objective as I could.
Just to be clear, Pete, the Cowboys-Lions game is a Monday night broadcast, but it's on a Saturday. So
Got
Super-
confused.
Super big mistake
Well,
on
the
your
package
part.
for ESPN, right? So
Oh no, it's an embarrassing mistake on your part. That's okay. Like we got your back.
I
mean,
do. You've opened up a door for me to talk about a pet peeve that I have. If it's Thursday, don't call it Sunday Night Football. If it's Saturday, let's just call
I
it what it
completely
is.
disagree with you. I hate when people refer to like the season opener as Thursday Night Football because it's not. It's a brand. It's literally
Okay,
the Sunday. It's literally Mike
sure,
Tirico, Chris Collins
but
with Melissa Stark. It's
that's
literally
fine.
the
But
Sunday
don't
Night
tell
Football crew.
me, don't tell me that it's Sunday night on Thursday. Like I don't need any SNF logos. You need it if you. It doesn't have to be the Thursday night.
It's
logo,
not.
but
It's
let's
the
come up with a
Football Night
new
in
logo.
America logo. Like that's what they do.
Yeah,
Like
I don't.
anyway.
I mean, call the day the day. I'm confused enough about the days after training camp. Let's
Well,
just call the days what they are.
So Jeremy, I was going to bring this up to Pete, but before that diatribe, I guess. But we also have a Monday Night Football doubleheader in Week 3. So we have back-to-back weeks. So we've got the Eagles in Tampa in Week 3 on Monday Night Football, and then we also have the Rams in Cincinnati. I guess the Sean McVay, Zach Taylor Bowl, whatever. And I also the Super Bowl rematch. Wow, that Super Bowl had such little juice that I completely forgot that it happened. But yeah,
Well,
like.
The Rams fell off such a cliff that it doesn't even really matter.
Well, let's go that direction, Jeremy, because I saw I didn't see the segment, but I saw like it happening in the background. Peter Schrager on Good Morning Football. Okay, so on Monday he went off on Good Morning Football. Again, I didn't hear it, but so maybe you can enlighten us. He was like upset or in a half-hearted way about the Rams only having 2 primetime games this season.
I almost quote tweeted it because it did not make a ton of sense to me. I mean, he's basically saying like the Rams are one of the best teams in the past 5 years, and only one other team has more wins than him in the past 5 years, and they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And it's like, yeah, 2 years ago, they're a much worse team now. Like they've gotten decidedly worse across the board. They've traded away some key pieces. Yeah, they still have a couple superstars on their roster, but it's not going to be enough to really compete. And I don't think anyone is clamoring to see more Rams games. People in LA aren't clamoring to see more Rams games. No one shows up to their football games. So I mean, I guess you could make the Super Bowl rematch thing a thing, and maybe putting the Rams in primetime this early in the season. No one knows that they're going to be terrible yet, but that is not an inspiring Week 3 Monday night doubleheader there. Even Eagles Buccaneers, like I think that's going to be a pretty clear win for the Eagles there.
Those are both playoff rematches from that playoff season. The Bucs beat the Eagles before losing to the Rams on the Rams' way to winning the Super Bowl. And to your point, Pete, ESPN got both of the last 2 recent Super Bowl matches. Like you would think, like the Chiefs Eagles thing, we're all like, oh my gosh, Super Bowl rematch. Like literally nobody cares that like I didn't even realize that until this moment that was even happening. On the subject of primetime games, Pete. I also saw Good Morning Football was kind enough to put it in graphic form, which is a lot easier than like in text. So there are 6 teams with 5 primetime games, and there are 4 teams with 6 primetime games. So can you guess, Pete, the 6 teams that have 5 primetime games? So, but these are not the creme de la creme. The creme have 6. So we're talking about second place, silver medalists.
So have 5?
Correct. They have 5 primetime games.
I can't. I mean, I don't.
Okay, let's start with the Kings, the Kingmakers here. 6 primetime games. There are 4 teams. Who do you think they are?
I know the Chiefs and Chargers are 2 of them.
That's 2 of the 4.
I imagine the Cowboys are there, right?
That's 3 of the 4. You're 75% there.
And the Birds.
That's incorrect.
What's the 4th team?
Jeremy, do you know, or if you don't know, do you want to guess?
I do know.
Oh, well then we'll give Pete one more guess. Your clue is that I think all collectively hate them. No, it's not the Jets.
The Vikings.
No.
The Colts.
Nope.
The Buffalo
only
Bills.
hate them. It is the Buffalo Bills.
There it is.
All right. It only took me 7 guesses.
So the Cowboys, Bills, Chiefs, and Chargers lead the way. You're talking only one NFC team with 6 primetime games. Lo and behold, it is the Kings. There are 6 teams with 5 primetime games, so not important enough to get 6. You mentioned a few of them, Pete. The Vikings, the Eagles, and the Jets all have 5 primetime games. You're missing 3.
Jeremy, you can take over here.
I think Jeremy knows the answer.
I have a list in front of me. I'm sorry.
The other 3 are the New York Giants, the Green Bay Packers, the Aaron Rodgers-less Green Bay Packers, by the way. It's going to be very interesting. I know you'll hate this, Jeremy, to see if the Packers can hold that staying power without a franchise quarterback, and the Raiders, Pete, just to kind of round that out the whole list.
If you want to make the case, okay, the Rams need more primetime games, I think that's silly. However, if you add to that case, okay, not only do the Rams have 2, but the Packers have 5, then I think I can start to buy that point a little bit. Like the Packers should not have 5 primetime games.
Neither should the Vikings.
The Vikings I'm with y'all on, but the Packers are a blue blood. They're a Tiffany brand. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to put them. And like, I don't know, I guess, let me look, but I would presume that at least one of them is against the Bears, the Packers primetime game, which is a big deal. Let's see here. The Packers 5 primetime games are the Lions, Jeremy, by the way, on Thursday Night Football.
Well, I guess the other one is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the Thanksgiving, that's another pet peeve of mine. And maybe you agree with this, Jeremy, because we get it. Thanksgiving is not a primetime game. It is a massive game, but it is not a primetime game. So thank you for that.
Unless you get the Thursday night one, obviously.
No, I'm completely with you guys. I'm working the first game of Christmas Day this year, and I'm totally on board.
Anyway, Packers played the Lions in primetime Thursday Night Football. They are in Las Vegas. That's going to be kind of a lame Sunday Night Football game. Packers visiting the Raiders. They're see, like this. They visit the Lions on Thanksgiving, to your point. Packers play the Chiefs, Pete, on Sunday Night Football at Lambeau. They visit the Giants on Monday Night Football, and then visit the Vikings in Week 17 on Sunday Night Football. That game, that maybe is
Packers are getting flexed out. The Packers are getting flexed out of whatever games they can in 12 to 17. This is not going to be a team that why are people assuming that the Jordan Love Packers are just going to?
They're not, but they're the Packers. They have one of the biggest followings in the world.
I mean, I understand, but having the Patriots now lost primetime games because Mac Jones is.
Well, yeah, but that first year in 2020, they still had a lot. I mean, because of the brand. Who wants to watch the Raiders, Jeremy? Like, who is like pumped to watch the Raiders right now?
I don't understand it at all. That seems like a team that's very much rebuilding. They did basically nothing that interesting this offseason other than lose players and add Jimmy Garoppolo. So I don't understand the Raiders love at all. 5 primetime games.
Now,
I guess they still kind of have a national brand, but it's nothing like on the level of the Packers and the Cowboys and all those mainstream teams. But yeah,
so they play the Packers, the Raiders. So that's kind of part of it. They also play the Lions on Monday Night Football. So that's also part of it. They play the Chargers and the Chiefs. So the AFC West pass. But like, do y'all know Week 3 Sunday Night Football is the Steelers in Vegas? Who's like excited about that game? Like I'd like, that's just such a flat game to me. Like Week 3 kind of stinks, if we're being honest. Week 3 Thursday Night Football this might be the worst week of the year as far as primetime games. Week 3 we've got the Giants in San Francisco on Thursday night. We have the Steelers in Vegas.
Can't you buy that game?
Giants 49ers. That's the best of them, but you stick it on a Thursday, you're going to get the worst performance.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's automatically flat, and not only on a Thursday, but the Giants have to travel across the entire country. Like we're talking that this is a 19-0 score at the beginning of the fourth quarter. So you've got the Steelers in Vegas, and then Monday night is the doubleheader that we hated on. The Eagles in Tampa and the Rams in Cincinnati.
I like that you're wearing Giants blue today, and I like that you're upset that they have to travel on short rest. That is really caring of you as they.
I hate that. I hate when anybody has to deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't these things fair? Like, it seems very fair to say sometimes teams play other teams coming off their bye when they're coming off their bye. Sometimes they don't. Last year, I made a big deal about this. The Bears were on the road on Monday Night Football and then had to travel to play the Cowboys the next week. That's really unfair. I mean, the Cowboys waxed them, but still, I mean, like, it was really, really unfair.
We get a double dose around Thanksgiving of Seahawk football. To end Thanksgiving, you get 49ers at Seahawks, and then right the next week, you get Seahawks at Cowboys in Week 13 on TNF.
It's a pretty normal thing for the Cowboys to play 7 days later. Jeremy and I were talking last week. Detroit hasn't done that, but the Cowboys do that more often than not.
Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like the NFL wants to give the Cowboys enough rest and nobody else. Like, that's how I feel about it.
Cowboys have a 3-game homestand starting on Thanksgiving Day, so good for them. What other big time schedule thought do you have, Jeremy? Like, what's just been living in your mind rent free?
Well, I think the 2 Thursday night thing, right, where now teams can have 2 Monday through Thursday turnarounds. The Lions are one of the teams. I didn't see how many other teams are affected by that, but the NFL clearly utilized that. The Lions have 3 Thursday games. Obviously, the first game is kind of actually, I think, mostly considered an advantage because you're not coming on a short week and then you get a longer week for week 2. But the Lions have 2 Sunday to Thursday turnarounds, one being Thanksgiving, the other being that Thursday night game against the Packers. And so it's kind of interesting seeing how much they're going to stretch the limit of that. Obviously, it doesn't count for those back-to-back Thursday games coming off Thanksgiving for the Cowboys. But I think Lions players, I think a lot of teams are not going to like this change. Obviously, playing on Thursdays in general is annoying to really everybody other than the consumer. But we're going to see more of it for teams happening more and more often in one schedule. So I don't know. We'll see how it works out. I think I'm hoping this is a test year, and it's one of those things where they're like, yeah, that didn't work. Let's scale it back.
I think this schedule.
Well, just quickly, Pete. Both Lions Packers games are on Thursdays. If that wasn't obvious, the first one at Lambeau is Week 4, Thursday Night Football. The second one is Thanksgiving Day. I did see, Pete, on Good Morning Football that the Niners, sorry, Jeremy, are the only playoff team from last year who have to do 2 Thursday games this coming season that are separate weeks. Because, like I said, the Cowboys and Seahawks will play on Thursdays back to back, but those are consecutive, not far apart.
Right. You either make the playoffs or you don't. It's a binary scale, right? So that's something to keep in mind. My general feel about this schedule is I think it's a game-changing schedule. And what I mean by that is, and this is an article that we were talking about ahead of the season. Why is the NFL even considering prime time Thursday night flex? Why is there going to be allowed that you play 2 Thursday night games? And the answer was, we need these games better for Amazon. But it's not really that point that I'm trying to get at. I think this schedule, if you really look at it, like, and not to always bring the Chiefs into it, but the Chiefs are the Super Bowl champs, are a big draw. There's only 2 noon games for the Chiefs on the whole schedule, and one of them is Christmas. This NFL schedule was the NFL saying, all right, gone are the days of we're going to be fair to every owner in every market, and everyone is going to get their spotlight shine. And this schedule welcomed the days of we don't give an F. We are just going to have the best possible primetime packages for our partners. And we've made the rules lax. And look, you want to be on primetime? Don't suck, Rams. If you want to be on primetime, the Lions finally became interesting after X amount of years, and they were rewarded for it. And I think that's going to be the general message. You're not just going to get on primetime because you're a team in the NFL. You got to be one of the premier teams in the NFL. And guess what? Like, for all the crap we give the NFL about their decisions, this is probably going to lead to better ratings in prime time. And I don't think we're going to look back from this new strategy, so to speak.
I have a primetime thought in general, Pete, but you mentioned it. There are 4 teams who do not have a single primetime game. Correct me if I'm wrong on the list you sent, Jeremy. The Texans, the Falcons, the Cardinals, and the Colts. I don't think that's surprising by any stretch. The Commanders.
Has to bring the Colts up. You knew it. Just really rubbing it in. There's that grin.
The Commanders have a single primetime game. Some of that's just the market, right? Like, and you know, look, I'm not rooting for the Commanders to be good, but like, I think the NFL as a whole would love for the DC market to return to what it was in the late 80s, early 90s. The Jaguars, Jeremy, have more primetime games than the Bucks, the Browns, the Titans, the Panthers, and the aforementioned Rams. Just, you know, again, you want to be good, you want to be featured, then you got to be good. Like, it's a very binary thing, to Beat's point.
Yeah, no, and I honestly think the Jacksonville Jaguars should have more. I think they're an intriguing team. I think they're an up-and-coming team. They won, I think 7 out of their last 9 games, won a playoff game. They're in a very winnable division again this year. And listen, they're not quite at the level. I mean, we've talked a lot of AFC and the tiers in the AFC and how good it is and how stacked it is. Maybe they're not in the conversation to be at the top of that list, but I think they're very close to a tier 2 team in that AFC. And so I was kind of surprised to see that they only got 3 compared to teams like we were saying, like Green Bay and Minnesota and Vegas. I don't know what they're doing with 5 primetime games. Give Jacksonville some love.
So Pete, I want to bring up the primetime thing. I kind of think that primetime is old time now. Like you associate, not you specifically, but like we all associate primetime as like, oh, that's when the big ratings come. That's actually not true. I didn't totally realize that until somewhat recently. So obviously everyone's got like their take on the schedule and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Richard Dietrote in The Athletic. We all know that the Thanksgiving Day games crush. Like the Cowboys and Lions could play whoever and they will crush no matter what. Yeah. The night game does well, but not the same. That being said, excluding the Thanksgiving Day games, Pete, do you know of the top 5 most watched games last year, how many were in primetime? So we're taking Thanksgiving out. So now the top 5 Thanksgiving list games, how many of these 5 were in primetime?
1.
Jeremy, what's your guess?
2.
The answer is 0.
What
the 5
trick question.
The 5 most watched non-Thanksgiving Day games last year. Tell me what you think the common denominator here is. Number 1, Cowboys Packers. That was a 3 o'clock kick, 3:25, whatever. Eagles Cowboys. That was Christmas Eve, also a 3:25 kick. That was a Saturday, to be fair. Number 3, Cowboys Vikings, 3:25 kick. Number 4, Cowboys Bengals. That was week 2. That was the 3:25 kick. And number 5, Packers, Buccaneers, 325 kick. All 5 of these 325 kicks, 4 of them happen to include America's team. So that being said, like you said it, Pete, the Chiefs only have 2 noon games. The Cowboys only have 2 noon games. I think the new measurement of like how watchable a team isn't how many times they're on prime time, but it's how few times are they in that noon slot. And sorry, Peter Schrager's, demise in this exercise, one of the Cowboys noon games is against the Rams. So sometimes a team can sink a sort of, floating ship like the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think the 3 o'clock window is one the NFL has established is very important, and CBS has for sure. And this was something I was trying to figure out and look into because everyone in Kansas City sees, Chiefs, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals at 3 o'clock. That's definitely getting flexed. No, dummy, because CBS can control one game a week. You know what I mean? So these Chiefs, Bills and Chiefs, Bengals games, which are huge games, are not moving from the 3 o'clock window because CBS can control and keep them there. And that's as you're describing, RJ, that's a under talked about huge window for the NFL, and certainly CBS and Fox, who are able to have these protections, and they have the protections for a reason. And that goes into like where every game was a free agent. They're trying to make this as fair as possible to Fox and CBS, where you get a huge variety of games. Like sometimes the conference is better than the other conference, so they're not limiting the conferences anymore. They're trying to appease all the networks, and this is a billion-dollar industry, and the companies are paying billions of dollars for good games. And I think the NFL said, screw the owners, screw owner X, who's mad that the Texans aren't playing some X and so many primetime games. We're going to put the best possible product and try to come up with the best possible equation to continue to grow the game. And I do think they nailed it. And for fan bases that like want to see their team on primetime, well, it's going to have to come on the field first.
Jeremy, what do you enjoy more, primetime or 3 o'clock kicks?
Well, I mean, it kind of depends on, from a fan perspective, primetime to me is much better. As a writer, I will take I call them 4 o'clock games because I'm on the East Coast, but it is interesting. It does feel like that 4 o'clock spot is almost like a mini primetime game, because a lot of times you'll see the schedule way front loaded at the 1 o'clock spot. There's like 10 games at 1 o'clock, and then there's 2 or 3 at 4. So like a lot of people are only nationally, like you look at the distribution map, it's all like one game. Sometimes everyone on CBS is getting whatever. And obviously some of it is driven by time zone, right? If you're playing on the West Coast, you're probably going to be a 4 o'clock game, but it is interesting. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but it does feel like that's becoming kind of I don't know, what is that now? 4th primetime game per week.
I think it's the real prime time though. Like that's the way, like, and again, the Lions are my example here. And I say this not in the like fun way I poke at them, but like now prime time is like, well, we can elevate the like tier 2 teams in terms of like attention in prime time. Like we can let the big dogs carry the afternoons because that's when people want to watch. That's when people are on their couch, whatever. Because even though it's Sunday, like people have things to do at night or whatever, they're asleep or whatever the case may be. But yeah, like the best days are like what y'all described, when there's like just 2 games. And I don't think that the viewership numbers include Red Zone channel, because the Red Zone channel doesn't include any sort of prime time. But like there are rules in case anybody does not know that. Like if there have to be at least 2 games on for Scott Hansen to be able to show you what is happening. If there's only 1 game on, they're basically just rebroadcasting. That's why sometimes when the afternoon slate is ending and there's only a single game left, they have to leave, Jeremy, because if not, they're just like repurposing what CBS or Fox is broadcasting on their own.
Well, not before we see every touchdown from the past 7 hours of NFL coverage.
Wow. Okay. That was cool.
Montage.
Look at us breaking this down. We could be media people. Wow.
Right.
Okay. Let's, well, we could be like studying media people. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a different thing. It's really not hard when you,
right.
It's not hard when you cover the Cowboys because it's just like you're the best, like you're the Kings, like you can do anything and everything. Can y'all?
RJ's the type of professor. RJ's the type of professor. You'd go Professor RJ, and he would go, no, it's Professor Ochoa. Okay, like he's that type of college schedule professor.
I will only say this one time, but like the Cowboys are the most like highly visible team maybe in the world, and that's because they haven't been to a conference championship game in 30 years. Like. Imagine if they were the Chiefs from a success. Let's just think about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're this level of attention for being mediocre. It's the most incredible thing. It really is. I'm truly
only in your wildest dreams could they be the Kansas City
Wildest
Chiefs.
Dreams
But I do like the
song.
I do like the thought. I do like thinking about that.
Okay, we have each prepared a single team that we believe. Again, the prompt was is floating in the abyss. Now, you guys interpreted that however you wanted to. So, Jeremy, I would like you to decide the order. Who's going to go first, second, and third? So you control this thing.
Let's go Pete first because I don't think we've talked about his team much, and then I'll go and then I'll let you close things out.
Okay. My team is the Tennessee Titans. And I think the Tennessee Titans have been hiding in plain sight for one of the greatest collapses we have seen in maybe the past decade. This is a team that 3 or 4 years ago was playing in the AFC title game here in KC. And now the most exciting thing about the team is the schedule release video. I think you have...
It was awesome, though. Like, they crushed.
Sure. Right. They did. They also traded AJ Brown and were 7-10 last year after having the first seed in the AFC the year before. I think they're in full rebuilding mode. The fact that you're taking middle round quarterbacks in back-to-back years is not a good sign. Ryan Tannehill did not take that kindly. The only thing they really have going for them is Derrick Henry. I don't think if they don't make that deal with the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles necessarily are in the Super Bowl last year. So they certainly, to me, lost that trade. They need to rebuild their entire offensive line. They lost several key contributors in the offseason. And for a team, and maybe they talk more about it in Nashville, but I just think nationally, for a team that was the sole winner of the AFC bye just 2 years ago, they are so far away from, I think, even to me, being in division contention right now. And I think for a team that had a little bit of buzz, they had some identity, they had some juice just a handful of years ago, they are now very much in the abyss. And I just don't think we talk about the quick collapse of the Rams because they won the Super Bowl. This is like a very quiet monster collapse of an organization, in my opinion.
It's interesting, right? Like Mike Vrabel was considered maybe coach of the year candidate a couple of years in a row. And then I don't know if was he just like riding the coattails of Derrick Henry basically the entire time, or but I'm with you. Like Titans to me seem like one of those teams that I'm never even going to think about this entire 2023 season because they're not going to be in the stacked AFC. They're not going to be a team that you're really counting on to be competitive. And it does feel like they're just kind of in purgatory right now.
You said it in a weird way, Pete, that kind of made me think about it, but I mean, so the Titans have spent, top 100 picks on quarterbacks in back-to-back years, in addition to having Ryan Tannehill. And if we ranked the 3 best quarterbacks in the AFC South, I don't think I would put any Titans quarterback in the group. I mean, like some of that is just like the way the division looks, but like the 3 best are probably like Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud. Like you want to flip a coin, like how you want to rank Stroud and Richardson.
And they're lucky to be in the AFC South. If they weren't in the AFC South, that record would be even worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's like I don't like stand for the Patriots in any way, shape, or form, but people always like come for their like dynasty and say like, well, they got to play in the AFC East forever, however long they did. It's like, okay, well, look at the Titans. Like the Titans should have like a de facto like bookmark trip to host a playoff game every year these last 5 years run. I mean, the AFC South has been a disaster. I would honestly kind of since Andrew Luck retired, which the Colts will tell us about 1,000 times. Like the AFC South has been an easy peasy, walk in the park. And to your point, Pete, the Titans damn near took that to the Super Bowl. And maybe that's it. Maybe only one team can win the Super Bowl. And so sometimes you're just a team that came really close and tried really hard, and that's not enough. But I kind of agree with Pete. Jeremy, I think the Titans kind of stink.
Yeah.
That McPherson field goal that saw the Bengals eventually advance to the Super Bowl, that could be the last time you really see the Titans as relevant for me for at least the foreseeable future. And so I just think it's a disappointing team that is right in front of our nose that we don't really talk about.
Jamie, you're in the abyss. You're going to tell us what team is next to you.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about them already, the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think all of this, like even with the Titans, this is just kind of like the natural reaction to having such a top heavy conference where there are 5, 6, 7 teams that are like legit Super Bowl contenders. Then you have a team like the Raiders that's just like sitting there doing nothing. They had one of the most underwhelming off seasons, I think, this entire season. And maybe they're just taking a long-term approach, but listen, hiring Josh McDaniels was suspect enough. Now they have no future plans at quarterback. It seems like right now, like, I don't know what what sort of benefit you're getting from getting rid of Derek Carr and adding Jimmy Garoppolo. The rest of their offseason moves, for whatever reason, seem to all be surrounding tight end. You trade Darren Waller, you get rid of Foster Moreau, you get OJ Howard, you get Austin Hooper, you draft Michael Mayer in the second round. Like, why are we just doing a tight end ring around the rosy? Like, that's your offseason move. That's the position you decide we need to not only just upgrade, we need to like do a full enema of your tight end room. Like, I don't quite get it.
A full what?
you heard me. But I don't know. And you look at that division, there's hope in every team in that division, right? Obviously the Chiefs are returning champs, the Chargers. Hopefully you got a new offensive coordinator that are going to fix things. I know you're not a Kellen Moore believer. And then you got the Broncos, who obviously get a new head coach, and hopefully at the very least, they still have a very good defense. I don't know what you have in the Raiders. I don't know what the future looks like for the Raiders. They just seem to kind of be standing still and not getting better. And so they are a team that we just talked about all the primetime games that they have. Hopefully some of those are flexible, because I think we're going to be pretty sick of seeing the Raiders by October.
Pete, Jeremy mentioned ring around the rosy. It was against the Raiders, right? That the Chiefs did that.
Yeah, it was a play that was called back. It would have went.
I know, but it was against the. You ruined it, but that was my point. Like, it was against the Raiders. Thank you, Kiss, for letting us know that Bear is barking. It's mail time around here. So.
Yeah, it's a tough division too. I mean, I gotta imagine the Broncos are gonna get better this year because they stunk last year and really couldn't be any worse. And of course, the Chiefs have Mahomes and the Chargers have Herbert, and they're continuing to build around those are the two playoff games. Hard to imagine a scenario where it's not the Raiders and the Broncos vying for last place in that division, but the NFL continues to surprise us. So now that we've made these comments about the Raiders, we expect them to be undefeated through the first 7 weeks.
I'm going to change my pick if you guys are fine with that. My team that's lost in the abyss, if you're okay. I was going to go with the Vikings, and it was going to work really well because, like, in the abyss, like, you're floating there. They're Vikings, like, they have ships. You know what I mean? I guess that kind of works for the Raiders. Jeremy, they're Pirates as well. But I'm going to switch to the Rams, and it's really based off of something I literally just read. Like right this second. So we all kind of hated on them, which I think we're fine with. Like, I don't have any problems hating the Rams. Like, I'm so sick of the NFL trying to tell us that the NFL in LA is cool and the Rams are cool and everything, like, whatever. But I do think we're kind of past that.
Rams house. Don't forget about the Rams house.
Pete, I know you are a Tottenham fan, but Jeremy, do you have it's just Spur. But Jeremy, do you have do you have a Premier League team?
I don't.
Okay.
I do like hockey or soccer for the record. The record, I know I'm getting a reputation of not liking anything. I do like soccer. I just don't have an in right now with the Premier League.
We'll help you.
He likes the Lions and he likes lasagna. Anything past that, forget it.
Lions on Lanyan. Yes, that was a play on that word. Anyway, well, sometimes people become fans of teams in any sport because, like, I don't know, I'm sure there's like a young Lion or now Lions fan that lives in wherever because they saw the Lions on Hard Knocks. Exactly. Like that effect sort of happens. So Arsenal is an English Premier League team that was featured on their version of All or Nothing last season. So I'm sure that there are a lot of people who root for Arsenal. I have a few friends who root for Arsenal, et cetera, et cetera. Are either of you aware that Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, also owns Arsenal? Did you guys know this?
Yes, I knew that, and we have a contributor at AP that does our headlines for us. It's great because of the time difference. Anyway, he loves Arsenal, and the fans
This isn't about my losers, the Rams, not Arsenal. Just to be clear.
Don't like the fact that Kroenke owns them. I mean, most Arsenal fans, to my understanding.
Right. Well, sports fans are famously always in love with their owners, right? Like, they never have a problem with the ownership groups that own their favorite teams. Mm-hmm. That being said, I just saw this article at Turf Show Times, SB Nation's home for Rams content.
TSD.
So, Stan Kroenke. So I don't know if you guys have been following this, but Arsenal held the league in the Premier League race this entire season. They had this incredible choke job and have now, basically seeded that they will win the Premier League title. Manchester City is going to win it. That being said, Stan Kroenke had Sean McVay go visit Arsenal to help Mikel Arteta, who's the Arsenal manager, learn from him, I guess, so that they can win the Super Bowl of soccer. This is the quote that Turf Show Times pulled. KSE, which I think is the ownership group, approach to Arsenal has similarities to the Rams, with both having hired relatively young and inexperienced coaches in McVay and Arteta, while continuing to back them against criticism. At the Rams, they reached the Super Bowl in 2019 in McVay's second season as head coach. Despite the pressure of losing the biggest game in the NFL, KSC stood by McVay. That faith, combined with the financial backing by bringing in new players, led the Rams to win the Super Bowl in 22. And now the report says that a similar strategy will be employed at Arsenal. I'm so sick of the Rams thinking they're cool. Like, you're not. Like, they're so insignificant. I said this last year to Michael Peterson. Did anybody care, Jeremy, last year at the Rams on the Super Bowl? Like, there are Chargers and Raiders and Broncos fans that are pissed that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, right? Like, they care in a negative way. Like, was anybody's like life impacted? Even you as a Matthew Stafford supporter, was your life at all impacted? Like, no, they're so insignificant. They do not belong here. That's my take. The Rams
it felt like a bigger story in Detroit than it did in LA, to be completely honest.
Right.
Great pants by The Rock in that Super Bowl. Great halftime show as well.
The Rams, Jeremy, they're lost. Like, and they're gonna trap Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp. That's all they're gonna do. That's all they're gonna do. They are so insignificant to me. They mean absolutely nothing.
To me, they're the ultimate example of people trying to get excited about one way of building a team and then realizing immediately that's not how it usually works. Like the whole F them picks things, where it's like, okay, yeah, you opened your window for exactly 1 year and it happened to work. Probably a fair amount of luck that played into that, and now you're in trouble. You're in a lot of trouble. And so I think we all tend to overreact to the Super Bowl winner and say, oh, how can we build our team like that? You don't want to do what the Rams do. That was risky. It was irresponsible. It was reckless. It worked. And so everyone's going to say, well, who cares? You got your Lombardi trophy. But yeah, I think they're in trouble, and they're not going to pull out of that tailspin for a while.
You know, following baseball as well here in KC, you always have that hypothetical, what if you win the championship? Will you take 10 years of mediocrity? And it sounds like a great deal with the devil to do at the time.
Right.
But you should see how depressed Kansas Cityans are with this Royals team at this stage. I mean, it's a laughing stock, and they got the World Series in, I believe it was 15. And, it makes sense in the moment, but like now you're going to have to deal with like 7, 8, 9 years of probably bad Rams football. And I think I've gone back on that. Like, I think I'd rather the team as a fan be competitive than win the championship 1 year and then be miserable for X amount of years. So you're right. They're lucky that they won it, because imagine the Bengals, which was a 1-score game, pull it off. Yeah. This would be a disaster. One of the biggest disasters, I think, in NFL history. They're lucky that they won that championship.
They almost lost to the Buccaneers. Remember that? Like the Bucs came back huge in that game. It was like going to be the new 28-3, and then Stafford pulled off that big bomb to
Frat Stafford
and Jaquiski Tartt. I think it was Jaquiski Tartt dropped that easy interception in the NFC Championship game. I mean, and they did lose to the Niners actually in Week 18, which impacted their playoff seeding. Right. I mean, like their playoff wins that year, to your point, Jeremy, were against the Kyler Murray Cardinals, who had collapsed obviously on their way in. Then they beat the Bucs after almost falling apart, and then they barely held on to beat the Niners, and then they beat the Bengals, who kind of, like, I think we all agree, had the Chiefs had that title game and not blown their own lead, which gets overlooked, Pete. Sorry. I mean, the Chiefs would have waxed the Rams. Like, it would not have been a rematch of that famed Monday Night Football game.
I tend to agree. Yeah. Look,
I'm also sorry, Pete. I'm so sick of like Sean McVay is going to retire. Like all the stories here are so exhausting and dumb to me. The Rams are lost.
Well,
and keep them in the abyss. I don't want them back.
Where are they going to be? Like, there has been so much smoke regarding the McVay retirement and him broadcasting, and then Aaron Donald retiring. When these two guys leave, what do the Rams have left?
Stafford's on his way out too, right?
The memories, right? Like, so of the abyss teams that we have today, and not to take Rachel's job here, but the Rams might be the abyssiest of the abyss of the three we selected.
Well, Rachel, it is that time for you to come on in and let us know what you think about the schedule in general, et cetera, et cetera. Also, we missed you last week. Neither Pete nor Jeremy said that to you, but I did. And then let us know who you think is lost in the abyss. So there's a lot of assignments for you right now. And then, of course, who won MFW MVP.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back. I appreciate you acknowledging that.
Just me, right?
I had two teams for teams that were lost in the abyss. Rams was definitely one, so you stole that one from me. And also, I feel like the Bucs could be thrown in that conversation, honestly. post Tom Brady, still trying to figure out quarterback position. They don't know if it's going to be Trask or Baker Mayfield. They also still have like some holes in just different areas like tight end, offensive line. And so even though they have like a lot of veteran players, they definitely are kind of still in like a rebuilding, trying to figure it out post Brady. So I would throw in the Bucks. But I love
Baker. That's a great point. Baker Mayfield is hopping from abyss to abyss. I mean, he's like a sea monster right now, right?
Yeah. But
He interrupted you, Rachel. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So that was my favorite one. You guys both just mentioned. RJ got it on that one for sure. When it came to like the points though, Jeremy, I really did agree with your point about the Raiders when you were just saying like you don't understand the love, because I can agree with that one. I don't really get it as well. And also I agree with your perspective of like the 4 p.m. games, like that slot. I, as a fan, did you say that, RJ? As well?
Yes, that was me.
But I
was
built
one
on
of
his
the-
point.
I
elevated his point.
He elevated.
I had the list of the most watched games last year, and I brought up that whole point. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll scratch that.
I initially brought that up, I think.
Yeah. And then Pete, I actually really, really loved your point about how you were just talking about how like this is a game changing schedule. You had said how like you see how it's going from like every owner just getting like the fair chance, and now it's more so just about like the best teams, the premier teams, or the ones who are getting the primetime games. And so I really like that one as well. And I also really liked your point on the Titans. I think that the Rams was number 1, but Titans was definitely number 2. So yeah, and based on today's points, I'm gonna give it to Pete.
Woo! Woo! He didn't say anything that was of merit or notable whatsoever. Jeremy and I did everything.
You did a great job today.
I'm back.
His
was
background
good. He was
blurs
good.
with his face. Like we can't even
Yes,
see
he's
his whole
back.
face.
That's not fair. He's transitioning into a new environment.
Right. I need to get a green screen. I mean, that's the reality, but I'll put up the trophy every time I win one. I think that'll be good.
I guess Pete, the floor is technically yours.
Yeah, thank you to everybody that helped me get here. Every decision in my life has led me to this point, and I couldn't be prouder to be the May 15th MF double MVP. I think
May 15th.
I
Made you look. That's all I wanted. I just at least wanted to make you doubt.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. That's all I gotta say. Thank you. I had a great breakfast sandwich over the weekend, RJ. I'll share with you in a little bit here.
Rachel, just because we feel like it. If you had Pete won the gold, but who won the silver between Jeremy and I?
RJ, because you came with the Rams. That was really good.
Let's go.
Not that I am not proud of my accomplishment today, but this feels like a little bit of an overcorrection, Jeremy. So keep that in mind. I mean, you won it a couple weeks in a row, and so now you're getting the bronze medal.
Got it.
Jeremy, you still made the podium. So I mean, congratulations.
I'm the guy chugging the champagne on step 3.
You know, but you're kind of, that's like the Lions now. Like, oh, we're in prime time when we just literally proved that the 3 o'clock window is actually more valuable. You know what I'm saying? So
we proved that.
I mean, we kind of did. So that was Rachel's logic behind the MFW MVP. Jeremy, your thoughts?
You're saying the Lions get the participation trophy this year,
right? Exactly.
Yes.
But you know, at least you're not the Raiders. That's like the Lions' true prize right now. Jeremy, your thoughts on your performance today?
You know what? I think I wouldn't call it a failure. It's just a step in the right, to get to success, you need to have these ways that some people will call failures. I don't call them failures.
Yeah, Giannis gave birth to the sports version of Live, Laugh, Love when he said that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the new thing that everyone, should put it on a pillow, put it in Pete's living room, his new spot. So
trust the process, right?
Pete,
trust the process.
As we exit here, Pete, I would like you to make the sound of a zoo animal of your choice.
Okay. How about a dolphin?
What?
Wait, was that a goat?